Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Bart Lenahan, principal of Tuckahoe Middle School. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight on this fifth to sixth grade parent information night. I'm proud of the guests with me. Mr. James Moore is handling things from a technology point of view. He's a sixth grade social studies teacher. Mr. Eric Salaban, our school psychologist, is off to my right. And Ms. Deborah DiFrancesco, our guidance counselor for the middle school. And in the bottom screen, Mr. Scott DeBellis, our assistant principal. So that is our panel for tonight. We're here to present an overview of the middle school, just to make you feel comfortable. We'll have an orientation in the summer, late summer, for your child. And also Buddy Day is coming. So we're trying to break the ice gradually in this very challenging year. So let me begin by just giving you a little background about the middle school and the evolving role. We can go to the next slide.
Okay, hold on, let's set this up. Okay.
One more, James. Thank you. Great. I thought I'd begin by just giving you a little bit of background about the middle school because it has become rather complex with all the changes going on in society. It basically was developed to address the social and emotional challenges related to adolescence about 40 years ago. Ironically, at that time, the junior high school preceded it, and educators felt it was too academically oriented and it basically didn't address the needs of adolescents. That evolved basically as SEL needs increased with family dynamics changing, growth in population, basically. Also, society was changing with single parents, mothers working, and SEL needs increased for the middle school as adolescents obviously, became something that developed much earlier in children. Following that, though, New York State got into it and basically implemented standards and exams. This goes back about 20 years ago. Test scores were going to be reported. So there was a dynamic shift from basically self-esteem, self-awareness to basically results. And we're dealing now with a combination of everything. Technology innovations and global connections basically fostered a competition, basically a need to really, how do we stand, how do we compete, both globally, both as a school and as a district. So that added to the complexity of the middle school and what the expectations were. So basically, we have a strategic plan in place that guides us to meet the evolving social and technological norms while focusing on academic growth. And obviously, it's a post-pandemic look at it. Next slide, please. In our strategic plan, basically, one of the things we work on is we're a small school and we use that to our advantage. The staff is very well connected with the students. Mrs. DiFrancesco leads team meetings. There's a lot of connections between the teachers and the guidance and wellness staff. Mr. Salaban is constantly in the classrooms and in the halls working with students. So the smallness works to our advantage. Wellness is also integrated in the curriculum, whether it's ELA, social studies, using characters to digress and obviously, see how feelings are, self-awareness of characters, and how does that translate to students? How are they doing? How do they feel about themselves? So it's an ongoing focus with students and their SEL needs. Obviously, we look at software and how teachers can really implement using software to obviously address student needs. Diverse learners, basically, we know in the middle school, everybody comes from a different experience, different cultural backgrounds, different family life experiences. So we take that into consideration. Reading is a priority. We actually basically have our students work with the teachers to develop their reading habits so they can obviously work on scaled reading. We have a student choice reading libraries with English teachers basically allow students to select books of their own interest to get them involved in reading. So diversity and technology all go hand in hand. Contemporary teaching and learning, basically, we've been in the forefront there. And I will tell you, the pandemic has just increased things exponentially. We were moving along, doing very well. And obviously, like other districts, contemporary teaching and learning really has taken the forefront. Obviously, with remote learning, that's something we wouldn't have been doing except for the pandemic. But we do a lot of things alongside of that. Basically, we have blended learning where students basically have direct instruction followed by digital learning, all within the same lesson. We basically have knowledge building. Our students now are working on projects. So it's more student-centered than ever before. And I will tell you, the pandemic really has emphasized and really accelerated that. Last part is professional learning. Our teachers this year engaged in project-based learning. We were well on our way to working on projects. However, about 2/3 of the faculty really invested in their Mondays and asynchronous learning in working on project-based learning and developing project-based lessons. That is the world of work. That is the world of the future. Like I said, we were there already, but we really did, any chance to improve with professional development is obviously a plus. Visual literacy, digital learning is obviously, it's essential and it's ongoing in the middle school. I think students at Cottle have already been exposed to that, obviously with the Google Classroom coming in due to the pandemic. So that's been a plus. We also have the writing revolution, which we did take a back seat for this year a little bit because of the pandemic. However, writing has improved dramatically in the district because of that. So we're looking to really continue through the strategic plan to work on professional learning and improve the academic program at the middle school. Give you an update on this, a basic schedule. I'll turn it over to Mrs. DeFrancesco. We'll take you through the student's day and what the periods look like.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming. The kids are somewhat used to changing classes now as the 5th grade last year, this year started to departmentalize some. So it won't be such a shock as in previous years that the kids have to get used to it. Our periods are between 40 and 42, 43 minutes each. The kids have 3 or 4 minutes to pass between classes. Don't worry, in the beginning, the teachers give them a lot of time to get used to it, to figure out where to go. And even though the 6th grade is all on one floor for the most part, and the classes are next to each other, the kids get confused. So teachers fully understand that. And of course, we'll all be in the halls to help them the first month of school. So a typical first period for a 6th grader would either consist of physical education, music, or if a child has an ancillary service like reading or such, that would be put in that period. In other words, we are on a 6-day cycle. So if you have gym and you go to chorus, you would have gym every other day, and it would flip-flop with chorus every other day. That would be a typical first period. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th period are core academics. It's either math, science, social studies, or English. They'll switch those classes. In 6th grade, you'll see English up here twice, because in 6th grade, 6th graders get 2 English classes every day. 5th period, the whole middle school goes to lunch. Clearly not at the same time. Half of the school is playing and having recess while the other half is eating, and then 20 minutes or so into the lunch period, they switch and they flip-flop, and the second half goes in to eat, and the other first half that ate already gets to go out and have recess. Recess can consist of being outside. It can consist of being in the library to get some studying done. Some of the kids come and see their teachers. Some kids spend lunch with myself and Eric. So kids are doing what they need to do at lunchtime, as well as having some fun time with their friends. Period 6 would be their specials. We can call them specials. They're 10-week classes. They move with every quarter. So every quarter you'll get a report card. Every quarter your child will be in a new special. The specials in 6th grade are STEM, health, geography, and literacy, art. These are all things that they take. They certainly switch them up. That's also a period where some of the kids, if they need it, would take, as you know, in Cottle, if any of your students took, or your children took AIS, Academic Intervention Service, for math or English, that's the time that you would take that class. Again, if you take an ELA, AIS every other day, you would go to your special every other day. The teachers fully are used to having kids in and out of their classes for specials. They don't get penalized if they're only there for half time. some kids need math and English AIS and they miss their special for a quarter, and the following quarter, they may be back in their special and they may say, you know, I want to make sure I go to STEM, or I want to make sure I go to health. So we arrange that with all the kids. I arrange that with the schedules. It's not a problem. We certainly don't want them to miss anything that they really enjoy doing, because they need a little extra help in something. They go to 7th period after that. Again, they're back in specials, math, science, social studies, or English. And 8th period, they're either in a core academic or a special. Because of the 2 English classes in 6th grade, half the class has specials, has the first specials the first half of the year, and then in 6th period, and then 8th period, and they flip-flop. I know it sounds very confusing, but the kids will be used to it, I promise, within the first 2 weeks of school, and we'll be out there helping them. But that's a typical day in middle school. And they have extra help on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays about a month after school starts. So that can add an hour, a half hour to their day if you want to stay for extra help. And we always encourage the kids to stay for extra help, either to get their homework done, meet with a teacher, whatever it is that they think they need, we encourage them to stay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. DeFrancisco. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can please put them in the chat. I know this, is all brand new to everybody, but you will be able to see it again. We'll take your student through it in August, so there'll be refreshers. And every September when they come in the door, we're ready to support them. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Salaban.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As Dr. Linehan and Ms. DeFrancesco were saying, the 6th grade transition is a big one. For many families, if you're having your first kid, it can be something that can be scary and trying. Just trust us. We've been doing this for a long time. And, we understand that most kids, especially if they haven't had the luxury of having an older sibling go through the middle school, this is going to be new for all of them. To that point, the district has done a couple of things to help with that transition. The first one being the 5th grade moving to the departmentalized model, which allows children to experience different teachers, changing classes in anticipation of the 6th grade. So it's not something that's going to be just brand new to them. As Ms. D mentioned, other things are built in. It's a thoughtful transition process and thoughtful planning. We'll have the times where the coddle students will come up. All the 6th grade classes are strategically located not only on the first floor to minimize travel time, but to be in proximity of all of our offices so that we can help. Ms. D also mentioned that all teachers are extremely flexible at that beginning transition part of the year to help everybody get to where they need to go. We know that everybody has their own transition that they're going to be going through. With that combination of the departmentalized model and also the supports that are built in to the basic structure of the 6th grade team, it's meant to ease that transition for all students, because we know all students are going to be having some nervousness, which is natural as part of this transition. As we know, social emotional needs are linked to academic success. We have Ms. DeFrancesco and I, we have team meetings, and that's with all teachers come to discuss any kind of issues that may be arising in the classroom. There may be a time where you might get a call from a team meeting for your feedback and your collaboration. There's also times where you may ask for a team meeting, and that's perfectly within your right and something that you should do, because that helps keep the support staff, teachers, and you, the 3 parts of the team, all together for your child's best interests. Family life and supports obviously are very significant at this age. Maintain communication with your Tuckahoe Middle School counselor. If you have any changes, we can't control life and the stresses that occur. We just handle them as best you can when they come up. So if your family is experiencing something, please reach out to Ms. DeFrancesco, to myself, any administration. We're there to help, because we understand that nothing exists in a bubble. If your family's going through something, that's not going to be totally isolated, and we're here to support. Every child is developing differently academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. These are the years where resiliency, and we'll talk about that later, resiliency is key. There are such things called growing pains. It can be a difficult time. It can be a stressful time. So, just keep that in mind in the expectations with your child, and also communicate if you notice any issues that your child is exhibiting. Every child wants to be accepted. They want to be part of a peer group. That's especially true in middle school. And that's a tricky thing, because throughout middle school, those groups are changing. Throughout high school, those groups are changing. Probably one of the best pieces of feedback that I can give is to make sure that your child gets involved in different activities, school, extracurricular activities, so they have different things to do with peers. It helps with that feeling of that peer group, and it keeps them active. Again, we're talking about the whole child here. So if your child is really working hard to be the best student possible, but it's contributing to an unreasonable and unmanageable stress level, please communicate with us so that we can help. We want your child to be well-rounded. And we want to be able to help them to cope as much as possible. Also, students begin the process of self-advocacy with parental support. So many times, if there's an issue going on, we work with the students on how to communicate their need with the adult, because that's a skill that they're going to need later on in life. Obviously, as parents, you're going to be wanting to support them as well, but that's ultimately I go for your child to speak up and advocate for their needs, because that's going to be a lifelong skill. And my last point, the role of the parent evolves as students progress through the secondary grades. If any of you have older children, or if you're already experiencing with some of your younger children, they get home from school. This has to do with communication. They get home from school and you start asking them, what did you do? How was your day? And you're getting nothing, not much, nothing. What'd you learn? Nothing. Just a strategy that I was told a long time ago that's invaluable has to do with keeping the lines of communication open. And one great way to do that is, instead of asking your child how their day was, start by sharing how your day went. And again, you're not going to be unloading your heavy stuff on them. When you're sharing with them, you're modeling things. You're modeling things like problem-solving skills, modeling your empathy, modeling your kindness. Model these things during the day, but get in the habit of opening up to them first, so that they don't feel the subject of the conversation, and hopefully maybe that they'll reciprocate. It may not happen over one time, but that's a great skill to keep the lines of communication open for your 5th to 6th grade student, and that's a really crucial part as a parent.
Thank you, Eric. On that note, on sharing, I'm completing my first year as principal at the middle school, and I will tell you the communication networks internally amongst the teachers and the pupil services, Ms. DiFrancesco and Mr. Salaban, is really very, impressive. Basically, no teacher observes a student or, get an inkling of a student in a vacuum. There's a system in place at the team meetings where teachers share information about students, both academically, social, emotionally, what's going on in their lives that they know of. It goes down to, obviously the guidance office and the psychologist, Mr. Salaban, and basically points are implemented, feedback loops are put in place, calls are made to parents. Other teachers are put on notice to observe and help and assist so the student can be successful. So a good organization really has great internal communication, and the team meetings led by our psychologist and our guidance counselor have been very impressive. Also impressive is our teachers. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Moore, our social studies teacher, and also does our coaching for technology in the middle school. Mr. Moore?
Welcome, everyone. I just wanted to go over a few things about the 6th grade. So everyone here is, based upon everything that's happened in the world, we've been almost forced to take on more technology in order to be effective. Okay. Chromebooks, though, have been a part of the 6th grade for a whole lot of years. Okay. We've been using Google Classroom now for probably 6 or 7 years. And that's really like the home base of where everything is. Every assignment's on there. Teachers' extra help times are on there. There's a calendar that's populated from that. And really what it is it's like the go-to place for the students. And it's a great way for you to communicate with your child and have them show you how the Google Classroom works and when things are due, and have a discussion about what's going on in the classroom. Now, while technology is important, we all come to realize that it is a tool, okay? And the most important thing that the students and the teachers develop over the course of the year in 6th grade is a relationship where they're comfortable. Normally what happens is in the beginning, everyone is very shy or very nervous. And then all of a sudden, as things start to become more routine, everyone starts to open up. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why this happens is because The sixth grade happens to be pretty consistent. We've been together for a few years now. And I can tell you that we're consistent because there's a lot of writing going on in all the different disciplines, okay? We meet with Ms. D and Mr. Salaban on a weekly basis, okay, to talk about everything that's going on. And when we talk about everything that's going on, we're really not just talking about bad things. We're talking about good things too, things that are working, things that, different types of goals that maybe some students have attained. And this is accomplished through all these different types of activities that the students take part in. Whether it's writing, role playing, whether it's drawing, it could be anything. All these different ways of tapping into these diverse learners, is able to happen because we, as teachers and as a team, talk and discuss of different ways that we can do this. For you guys, though, one of the things that you can look at is the teacher websites. Okay, that's your window into what's going on in the classroom. There's a calendar there, posted there with assignments. Maybe you want to print it out, put it on your fridge, or put it in your calendar. But it's a great way for you to see what's going on. Nothing can change having a discussion with your child about how class was going and what's coming up. One thing I would suggest, because email is so easy now, is that if there's anything, it could be anything at all, that is a stressor or anything that you have a concern about, please email one of the teachers and we'll get back to you. It's important because, when we look at this transition isn't only just for the students, it's also for the parents as well. And honestly, we are all in this together to get the most and have a great experience for all the students. Let me just switch this one over. So I want to talk about a few things that happened in the sixth grade. Okay, now each teacher has a core subject that they focus on. However, what happens is a lot of times these subjects are intertwined. So in English, they might be reading something like Percy Jackson, but in social studies, we're doing Greece. So they already get to share their knowledge from the other classes, and that's important because it not only does it promote an idea that everything is related, but it also gives the kids a certain amount of confidence walking into a challenge that they might face in another classroom. Reading obviously happens in all content areas. Technology is now a mainstay. However, as things go back to normal, we hope to have a more, project-based experience for all the students. One thing that's big that happens to be challenging that I'll talk about is homework. So in previous years, they would have one teacher with homework, okay? When you have multiple teachers with different homework assignments, we have an electronic planner. You might want to go old school and have a planner and write things down. The one thing I will say about homework, though, homework is not there to stress everyone out in your house, okay? It's there to build upon something that happened in class. It's there to review different things that happen in class. And if it becomes overbearing or if it becomes counterproductive, then it's really important to just send an email to a teacher and let them know what's going on. And then the teachers will have a discussion about it. Differentiating instruction is a very important part of sixth grade. We are fortunate to have teachers that, are able to, look at things from different perspectives and be able to address the mastery through different manners, whether it's building something, whether it's making videos, whether it's making music. A lot of times what happened in social studies, because of everything that went on, we had to change gears a little bit and focus more on a little technology driven thing. So kids, for projects would build Minecraft and have, a backstory to it. All these things, all these challenges that the students and the teachers face along with you guys, we want what's best for the children to show mastery. Now, the importance of lifelong learning means that regardless of whatever success level a student has, we want to build upon that success. We have an invested value in having these students feel successful and want to do more and do as well as they can. We're always here to help. If there's anything that comes up, please feel free to reach out. Personally, if there's an issue with technology, send me an email. I can help you out with the technology. And, I look forward to having your children next year.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. DeBellis?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Scott DeBellis. I'm the assistant principal with both Tuckahoe Middle and Tuckahoe High School. Thank you for joining us. I know a lot of these things have already been touched upon, so I won't spend too much time, just a couple new pieces of information. Number one, I'm in a unique standpoint this year as well. My oldest son is going to be transitioning to 6th grade, so I'm going to be going through it from a personal perspective as well as administrative. As an educator for almost 20 years, it doesn't matter when it's your own child, it's a little bit different. And I think that as an administration, we always try to take that viewpoint from a parent. And I think Dr. Linehan had mentioned the communication. So you will hear from me and I'll reach out with different pieces of information. It's not always bad, I promise, but we do want to keep the lines open. We just want to make sure that we keep everyone in the know so that we can keep that information flowing. I believe that the middle school years are challenging. Students are going to be pushed academically as well as socially and emotionally. So it's a great opportunity for them to start building some of the skills that are going to help them throughout the rest of their life. Advocacy is something Mr. Salaban spoke about, and it's something that I always try to emphasize. Starting to build those relationships with their teachers, it's critical. So Buddy Week will start next week. Ms. D, Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Linehan, myself will be around. It's going to be a little bit toned down than it has been in the past, but it goes along the multiple exposure theory. The more that the children start to see the place that they're going to become, it becomes more normal and they're more comfortable and they'll start to settle in. Research says that it takes several months for students to transition into a different environment. So the process can begin now. It doesn't have to start in September. And I think that's the whole goal of doing this. In August, we will have an orientation, usually late July, beginning of August. We'll send out information about that, but it'll start to get a little bit more specific so that the students are actually moving around a little bit more throughout the building. And by the time classes start in September, they're comfortable, they know where to go. And it's one stressor that's removed from them. Ms. D talked about changing classes. They have a little bit more independence, which also now starts to teach the responsibility aspect of it. You don't have a tremendous amount of time, so you want to, make sure that you're moving from class to class. If you need to stay with a teacher, we'll teach them obviously that they have to get a pass and that, they have a place to be and the time to be there. And it starts to keep them on schedule and develop their routine and develop their habits. Attendance. Hopefully after the pandemic, everyone wants to be back in school. They don't want to be home anymore. They want to get out. But the research has shown for many, many years that academic success, and not only academic, but just social and emotional success is connected to attendance. When you're there every day, you do well, or at least you do better. So being in school every day as much as possible is critical. We understand that students get sick or that there might be a family situation that comes up, but we ask that you please communicate with our attendance office. I'll send a letter out over the summer, with the details, the email address. We ask that you provide documentation to us so that when we code it in the system, it can be coded appropriately. And it can be either an excused absence or an unexcused if there is no documentation. We will monitor it throughout the year. You could potentially receive a letter from my office just letting you know where you stand with absences. So it is something that we will track and we will obviously, work for the students to have great attendance. Technology, Mr. Moore spoke about it. I'm going to just talk about it from a little bit of a different angle. As adults, we're always worried about identity theft and we're always worried about protecting our information. We want students to start to do the same thing, because if they're logged into their Google account and they leave their Chromebook laying around and someone goes into it, then obviously that's not good. So we want to get them in the habit at the end of the day, shut down their device, log out. Not only does it allow the device to update, and make sure that it's ready, but it also protects their information and protects their account. Charging a Chromebook every night is critical. There's only so many outlets that are inside of the room. So we want to make sure that the students have, those devices and they're ready to go, since they are being used so much more than they have been in the past. Mr. Moore, next slide. And then just talking a little bit about clubs and activities. Mr. Tobin, who is our other assistant principal, is in charge of student services and athletics. One of the things that I've always thought is very special about Tuckahoe is the amount of activities that students get involved with. We have a small student body population, but they're involved in numerous things, whether it be athletics or whether it be just extracurricular clubs. So some of the club offerings that you see here are things or opportunities that students can get involved with. It's about that social development and starting to build relationships and understanding that sometimes in relationships, friends don't get along or there might be a disagreement or a fight. But working through that and teaching them the skill of how to handle that, I think is a skill that they're going to need for the rest of their life. So we want them to be involved. We want them to do as much as possible, but yet we don't want them to also stress themselves out. So it's about finding that balance and being able to be a well-rounded individual, both academically and then socially and emotionally as well. Again, if there's any questions or anything that you need to discuss, please feel free to reach out to us, phone call, email, whatever's easier, and we'll be sure to get back to you. So hope tonight was a informational night for you. We look forward to seeing everyone soon.
Okay. Ms. D, you want to take the spirit and activities?
Sure. So I know that you have some of this that goes on down at Cottle. Middle school also has its own Spirit Week and special days and things that we do up at the middle school. So there'll be GO elections. The kids will run, they'll make speeches, the classes will vote, and the GO and anyone who wants to volunteer to be part of the GO, even if they're not an elected officer, will decide what Spirit Week is going to be like. They usually have pajama day, team day, all that, twin day, that fun stuff. Other special days that go along with it is we have special days for when it's Autism Month. We may have a child who wants to do something special for Breast Cancer Month. So the kids can often come up with things that they want to do and stuff that they're interested in for reasons of their own. And they want to do something special for those days. We've had bake sales to celebrate special days. We've had assemblies to celebrate special days. So lots of things in the past have happened, of course, not during the pandemic, but we're excited to get back to be able to do this in school. Community drives happen several times a year. We have done things from collecting foods, collecting coats, to collecting DVDs to send up to the Children's Hospital, and things to collect to go to the animal shelters. Again, the kids come up with what they want to do. We get on board, we help them. It goes out, Dr. Linehan puts them out in his weekly letters. They send Blackboard Connect out, so you'll know always what's going on and what we're doing for specific time to collect things. Assemblies, again, we couldn't have assemblies during the pandemic. So we look forward to getting back to some of those. We've had assemblies in the past about appropriate ways to be friends. Mrs. Bell said that's a developing skill in the middle school. And try to help children understand, how to deal with somebody who they've been friends with since first grade, and now they're not friends anymore. So we also have guest speakers. I believe Mr. Moore has come in for the year this year, so we have to get one come back in. If there's anything that
All right, so I'm just going to jump in real
Yeah.
fast.
Little technological.
Little technical thing. So assemblies. So we have a few assemblies over the course of the year. Okay. Obviously it didn't happen because of the pandemic. However, we were able to do a few workarounds in 6th grade. Mrs. Pappas organized a virtual visit to the Bronx Zoo, which was incorporated with math, and it actually the kids, how do you do this whole thing with math and the zoo? It was actually about how the people that work for the zoo are able to anticipate or calculate the population of animals in a large, when there's so many different animals in one place. It was actually very interesting, and using a formula, we were able to figure it out. Classroom guest speakers. So we are fortunate enough to, in 6th grade, because we study ancient Egypt, to have an expert that actually comes and presents through the generosity of the PTA and the Tuckahoe School Foundation. We're able to have these guest speakers come and give the students even more enrichment that goes beyond whatever expertise that I might have in a situation, coming from people that are experts in that field. We're very, very fortunate to have these opportunities. And as the pandemic and everything else, slows its roll a little bit, we'll be able to incorporate more.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
No problem.
Include by just 2 highlights. During this pandemic year, our English teachers were recognized by the New York State Reading Association. I said we have a dynamic reading program of student choice and getting students interested in reading. Read is the best way to learn. They were recognized by the New York State Reading Association for literacy outreach. And our Science Olympiad team won the bronze medal versus all the other schools in the region. So congratulations to the Science Olympiad team and our English teachers. So at this time, we'll take any questions. If you write them in on the chat, Mr. Moore will read them to us. I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, so the first question is regarding specials. How much art do the kids end up having over the course of the year? And does everyone do chorus, band, or orchestra? And are the children assigned an advisor or guidance counselor? So I can answer this right now because they are having some technical difficulties. Art is a class that they have for 1 quarter, okay? But there's also an art club, which meets throughout the course of the year. And Ms. Case does a wonderful job. And what ends up happening is, art happens in social studies as well. However, it's a whole different level with the different clubs. In terms of chorus and band, you can be a part of chorus or band. There is a string section, correct? So you're able to talk to the guidance counselor. Would be my best advice is to give Ms. D a call if that's something that you're interested in. And the guidance counselor is Ms. D.
James,
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
can you hear us now?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, so just to piggyback on James, again, forgive us,
Fading out again.
connection went dead. Just
Yeah, no, it's not working.
technology. Just to piggyback on James, everyone should have gotten a, not working.
All right, so if there's a comment or a question that you have, please send
No.
Ms. D an email. That
Yeah.
would be the best bet to do. All right, let's look at something else here. Would you please give more details about Buddy Week?
No.
You want me to do that, or you
Yeah,
want?
I'll take that.
Okay.
Basically, we work with Mr. Morash. They're coming up by 5th grade classes. There's a schedule. I think one day there's 2 classes coming up, but
How about now? Still?
because of the pandemic, we're basically going to limit it to a general tour of the building to get everybody acquainted. Where's the library? Where's the gym? What was done before, but on a lesser scale. So the classes will come up individually. Usually they all come up as 1 5th grade, and they'll be coming up by homeroom or by teacher. And we'll take them through the building, respond to any questions, make them feel as at home as possible. And we'll see them in August when they come back for orientation.
Okay, another question was, what are your thoughts at this point for lockers in the fall? Students' backpacks are so full and heavy. Also, will supply lists be available in August?
Yeah, I'll take the backpacks, and basically we're working a couple of things on the lockers. Basically, because of COVID, we haven't been able to use them this year. We don't know if we don't plan on using them next year. We have scaled back on the supplies. Ms. D has met, as I said, the team meetings with communication. Basically, we've advised the teachers and students are going to have to travel light next fall. So please limit the supplies. And we'll have a little bit of overflow storage in the offices for students with book issues or any special needs.
Yeah, and also the textbooks for social studies and science are digital. And if students are interested, they also get to take a copy home and return it towards the end of the year. So there's not a lot of books going around. They will be carrying the Chromebooks from place to place, and they might have something like folders for math and maybe a reading book at that point. But compared to previous years, this pandemic really helped us to streamline and be able to maximize, going from class to class and keeping things pretty light for the most part. Okay, when do they start to learn a foreign language and what languages?
I'll take that. I think Steve still
Let
has.
me try again.
You want us to try again?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You can try foreign language. What grade do they start in?
So they start foreign language in 7th grade, and at this point, our choices are Spanish and Italian.
Okay. Next question is, how long is lunch and the recess period?
I'll take this one. It's my favorite subject. So lunch is a traditional period, about 42, 43 minutes, and it's split. So the sixth graders will start out at recess for the first half of the period, 20, 22 minutes, something in that ballpark. They'll be by themselves. And then the second half, they will swap and they will go to lunch. 7th and 8th graders will be on the opposite of where they are. And we do that intentionally so that the 6th graders get a chance to adjust on their own. And again, this way they have some time by themselves.
Okay, another question is, what time does school start and end?
I'll take that one. In the pandemic year, we started a little bit later, about 10 minutes later, 7:50. However, normal starting time, the bell rings 7:39, and that's when the first period will begin. The students are expected to be in their classroom by then. It's a 7:35 passing bell. So we'll be back to that next year.
We also have breakfast available too, starting at about 7:25-ish. So if anyone does want to get breakfast, we do have that a little bit earlier.
Okay, another question was, any thoughts about buddying kids up for the first week with an upper class student during homeroom? I could take this. First period, normally, as you saw with the presentation, is normally a special of some type, and then they go their second period classes. Being that it's planned out how the classrooms are so close on one floor. The buddying option, is something that we can talk about, but honestly, the students together work collectively to find out where they need to go, because it's only like 2 classrooms down or around the corner. So it also gives them, although it might be a little stressful in the beginning, it gives them a lot of self-confidence to be able to find their way almost with their friends or with the other students. Another thing, there are no language options for 6th grade. And another question is, will block scheduling be in place next year?
No, we're going to go back to the regular schedule. Block was put in, and I will tell you this, was put in, really within an hour of really trying to really minimize the spread of COVID. And while it has been very helpful in minimizing the spread, there have been, some really big challenges by the teachers and the students in the way we implement it. So it was the safest way to go. It was helpful. I think the district may be looking for it in the future, but they have to form a committee and really take a look at their schedule and staffing if they're going to make any major changes.
Okay, another question has to do with, is there a place or a time when students are able to hand in things that need to go to the office? I can tell you right now, you can use my class. And honestly, you can use any of the teachers' classes. It's just a matter of, saying I have to go drop this off at the office, and it can happen when that occurs. In terms of housekeeping or finding out when things are due, you could talk about that, Dr. Linehan.
Yeah, basically, we'll have a mailing over the summer with deadlines, so please keep your eye open for that. A packet will go out, and information on student profiles, what we can release to the press, a photo releases, things like that, and we'll put a deadline on it for early September and go from there. So everything is streamlined. One of the things that's been most helpful is the adults. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, given a small school, it's a big advantage for us, and we take advantage of it. So, whether it's the first week of school with kids looking for rooms, or, kids with papers and when they want to turn them over to the office. So there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of energy that's shared among the adults.
And just to also add, there's announcements every morning that are made by Dr. Linehan. Might be announcing, if there's a change at lunch or a club that's meeting, and it's also posted to the website so that they can access the announcements every day.
And there's also a weekly message that Dr. Linehan sends home,
Weekly letter,
a weekly letter.
updating on what coming events, updating on achievements in past events. So we try and keep everybody as informed as much as possible.
Okay, one question, another question is, will there be summer work assigned for incoming sixth graders?
Well, I know Debbie, you want to?
Yeah, can you hear that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Starting off good.
So the kids, incoming sixth graders will get a math packet for the summer, and they'll also get assigned summer reading. That'll all be sent home to you. We have extra packets for the math work in school if you need them. It'll be on the Google Classroom for you to print out. It'll be on the website. We try and put it all over. And the books that, one will be assigned, I think, and two will be free reading, but there'll definitely be at least one book assigned over the summer.
Correct. There's a community read for the school, and then there's a student choice. So where students can pick a book of their interest. Any other questions, Mr. Moore?
As of right now, no. So if someone has a question, type it in the chat for me, please.
Okay.
Okay, something else about lockers and backpacks. Oh, what time does the school day end?
Well, right now it's 2:10. It'll be 2:30 come September.
Okay, someone else just asked, are there any sports for sixth grade?
No.
Yes,
So,
Modified sports start.
yeah, modified sports start in seventh grade,
That's
correct?
section 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
That's not
that's a state law. It's not us.
Yeah. No matter how good you are. Any other? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, virtually, of course. And I hope this is very informative. You have our email addresses are on the websites. You can call us if you have any follow-up questions. I want everybody to really come in September really feeling very confident. We're going to be very here to service your child. As someone put in the chat room, the middle school is very child-centered, does really look after the students. And we're looking for a successful sixth grade next year. So thank you again and have a good evening.
thank you. Looking forward
Everyone,
to-
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.